Drone shots of Arkansas River in Leadville, Colorado. Sign for California Gulch. Speaker is Doug Jamison, Superfund or Brownfields Unit Leader for Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment.
California Gulch is one of the early Superfund sites added to the National Priorities List. And what precipitated the addition of the site to the list was a blowout, which was a sudden and kind of uncontrolled release of mine-contaminated water and sediments from the Yak Tunnel in 1983. And as a result, reports have said that it turned the Arkansas River orange all the way down to Pueblo Reservoir. And after that, the site was added to the National Priorities List.
Bulldozer clearing brush. CDPHE stands for Colorado Department of Health and Environment. NRDAR stands for Natural Resource Damage Assessment and Restoration.
CDPHE has two roles at Superfund projects where there is an NRD component. First is we are either the support or lead agency on the Superfund cleanup.
EPA stands for Environmental Protection Agency.
For the history of the Cal Gulch site, CDPHE has been the support agency. So EPA has been the lead agency. We provide technical expertise, advice, ensure that state requirements are met. And then on the natural resource damage perspective of the project, or that component of the project, CDPHE is a natural resource trustee and has been thoroughly involved through all aspects of the NRD assessment and restoration in the Upper Arkansas River.
Speaker is Laura Archuleta, Environmental Contaminant Specialist with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Natural Resource Damage Assessment and Restoration, or NRDAR, is a Department of the Interior program, and it is also an arm of the Superfund law itself, but it's a different role than what EPA has. We are the natural resource trustees on behalf of the public, and so we look at injuries to natural resources based on the releases of hazardous substances from a Superfund site. So basically we go beyond what EPA does in cutting off the source of the contamination. We do the habitat restoration that they typically don't do. They do what's called remediation. And funding sources are different. We have to show cause and effect from the releases to the effects on the natural resources, and then we go after settlements with the responsible party.
Drone shots of erosion in Leadville.
It allows government agencies to recover funds from responsible parties to restore natural resources, and that's the key. They have to restore or acquire the equivalent of natural resources that the public has suffered a loss from over time due to environmental contamination.
Man fly fishing in the Arkansas River. Close-up shot of angler holding brown trout.
So, for example, on the Arkansas River, in 1983, there were no fish along the Arkansas River. So there's a public loss by not being able to enjoy that natural resource, by not being able to fish.
Underwater shot with no fish. Laura Archuleta walking along riverbank.
So we can do any kind of project that restores natural resources that we assess for injuries. Injuries are what happens when the hazardous substances are released and our trust resources are exposed to those. And so that could be a fishery, it can be soil respiration, it's sediments, it's water quality, it's impacts to populations and or individuals depending on it, if it's a listed endangered species or say, we'll just use a fish population or migratory birds.
A fish jumping out of the river. 2 Canadian geese floating on the water.
And the types of restoration projects that we look at are habitat restoration. And so we look at what is the supporting habitat for our trust resources. And so some of the examples that we've done in the Upper Arkansas NRDA case are in-stream river restoration, riparian vegetation associated with that. We've done riparian fencing to help landowners manage cattle.
Several shots of a cattle herd along riparian fencing.
We've also done conservation easement purchases, fee title purchases with partners. We, the natural resource trustees, have not become the owners, but other entities have, but we've provided that funding.
Central Colorado Conservancy Land Protection Sign. Colorado Parks and Wildlife State Wildlife Area Sign.
We've also done, with our co-trustee of the state of Colorado, groundwater resources, one of theirs, and there was a really cool project in Leadville with the Parkville Water District that we partially funded, and they had other funding as well, but it was to get a source of water that they had not been able to utilize that was warmer than other sources, and typically their system would freeze in the wintertime in Leadville. And so when this went online, it's helped that system not freeze, and so to be able to keep water service to residents.
Speaker is John Smines, project manager in the Royal Gorge Field Office for the Bureau of Land Management.
Many municipalities and people will get their drinking water from here downstream, and we're all connected to this upper headwaters area. The people live here, but it's throughout the watershed, all the way down.
Drone shot of Arkansas River flowing through Leadville. Sign of local ranch, Smith Ranches.
Some of the landowners along the river were very involved in both cleanup and the restoration planning for this site, and I think they've really been positively impacted. If you look at what's known as the irrigated meadows, just a few miles upstream of here, it's really hard to grow pasture grass on those meadows for a long time. They're still not perfect, but the improvement is incredible. And now the local ranchers can graze their livestock on those properties. It's primary succession, so it's going to continue to improve over time, I think. And it's just been a great success for the community, for the county, for the individual landowners.
Flying drone shot of rushing water in Arkansas River. Speaker is Harmony Jump, Natural Resources Conservation Manager for Central Colorado Conservancy.
Well, as you know, riparian areas are just really important areas for all kinds of wildlife. Aquatic fish, birds, large mammals. It supports a lot of wildlife in all stages of life. And in addition, they're also very sensitive to pressure and disturbance. And so by protecting these areas, we protect the land and the waters and the creatures that it sustains. The Central Colorado Conservancy is a land trust, and it works with private landowners to put land into conservation easement, which basically means that it protects it in perpetuity from any kind of subdivision or development. The Conservancy has worked with private landowners, talking to them about the importance of riparian areas and the land that they hold, and has, in the last 20 years, has protected about 1,000 acres along the Arkansas River headwaters, which is the stretch between the actual headwaters all the way down to the county line.
And I think it's important that we kind of look at that balance of where are the special areas that need protection or that we can protect, as well as utilizing those resources in a responsible way.
Angler taking a brown trout out of fishing net.
That in 1983, the Arkansas River was essentially dead, and there were very little fish in the river that time. Early fish surveys done by what was then the Division of Wildlife, now Colorado Parks and Wildlife, showed very low numbers and very low biomass of fish in the Arkansas River downstream of Leadville. And obviously that changed significantly. The conversion of a nearly dead stream to a gold medal fishery has been really an astounding change in a relatively short time, considering the magnitude of mining that occurred in Leadville over the years.
Trout being released back into river.
Yeah, I think the work that has been done here is a good example of what happens when you have a collaborative relationship amongst different groups, the federal agencies, state agencies, private landowners, local governments, and really what can be done when everybody sits down at the table and tries to do good work and has an understanding of what everybody's visions are and goals.
Researchers taking a trout out of the river to measure it. A heartfelt thanks to our incredible trustees, whose unwavering support and dedication turned what once seemed impossible into a remarkable success. Your belief in this vision and commitment to making it a reality have truly made all the difference. A collage of partner logos. These logos include U.S. Department of the Interior, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Environmental Protection Agency, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, State of Colorado, Colorado Department of Health and Environment, Central Colorado Conservancy, Trout Unlimited, and U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Land Management. Video filmed and produced by Avalor.